The following is a presentation of the TNH Podcast Network.
Jarrett Culver, I don't care what anyone says, he is a stud.
He was next up. Now it looks like he's actually up.
He's ready to go. He's going to be what Andrew Wiggins should have been this whole entire time. And some idiots in this room took Andrew Wiggins in the draft. I wonder who that was.
Who was that?
No, I wonder who
Matt,
that was.
do you know who that was? Matt, can you tell me who that was?
Yeah, I do. Someone who clearly doesn't know basketball or is just way too optimistic about
It wasn't me.
I know it wasn't me either. So,
No, it wasn't you.
So who we
Was
looking
it
at
Doug?
right now? Doug?
No, Doug's not in the league.
No, Doug's not in the league. That seems like a Ben Strawbridge move for sure.
Ben's not in the league.
No,
either.
Ben's not in the league. Yeah, that's right.
Oh, it was what's his name? Frank? No.
It's Yanni.
Yanni Kakouris.
Yeah,
That's
Yanni
who it
Kakouris.
was. Yanni drafted Andrew Wiggins.
Listen, I'm giving the idiot one chance.
You're giving him a chance. All right.
You know, he doesn't deserve it either, but I was in just such a mental state where I was like, at this point, what do I have to lose?
You have to lose.
Except the whole league.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to the HoopCats podcast on the TNH Podcast Network. My name is Sam Eggert. I'm here back with the boys, Matt Erb and Yanni Kakouris. Boys, say what's up.
Yo.
Howdy doody.
Today on the podcast, we will be talking about the NBA preseason, Zion's intense debut, the UNH Men's Volleyball Fantasy Basketball League, which will probably be a hot topic all throughout the year. And then we also have our second interview with Doug Rodoski. Doug actually happens to be our first two-time guest, so he probably gets an award for that. I don't know what it would be. But regardless of that, let's get right into it. Boys, NBA preseason started. Couple of matchups that kind of caught my eye. The Nets faced the Lakers last night. Spencer Dinwiddie, solid performance, 20 points, 3 rebounds, 7 assists. LeBron did all right, 20 points, 6 boards, and 2 assists. And guys, the Nets beat the Lakers. And this is a Kevin Durant-less Nets. I know it's the preseason, but do you guys feel like this is making the Nets seem a little bit more legit than they actually might be, or is it just preseason?
No, this means nothing. Kyrie Irving played a solid minute, and he wasn't even going to play more than 20 minutes. LeBron and AD didn't even played at 20 minutes, I think, each, roughly. I believe it was kind of a comeback, right? I think the Nets were down for most of it, and then they came back and won it towards the end, which was nice. But this to me means absolutely nothing. This is, I think, one of the least interesting preseason matchups we've had in this whole year.
You know, for me, love seeing the Lakers start off with a loss. I don't care if it's preseason. I don't care if they lost in a turtle race. The Lakers losing brings happiness to my life. It just starts my day off better. I mean, I don't even know where or who Dazan Musa is. I haven't done a lot of research on the Nets, so don't know Dazan Musa. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing his name correctly.
Zanan Musa.
Exactly. There you go.
Zanan Musa, he was their, I think, first-round draft pick last year.
16 points.
Last season, he went down with injury early, and then Rodions Kurucs kind of stepped into the role that was supposed to be Musa's. So Musa spent most of the year in development, but now, yeah, he played well last night. 16 points on 4 of 6 from 3. That could be big for them next year.
It's going to be interesting to see who the Nets decide to roll out when the time comes, because obviously they got guys who are competing for spots. They got guys who are not as equivalent as each other, but there's definitely people who deserve to be on the court and are going to earn their spot on the court for these Nets.
Doesn't that sound like something that happened last year?
A little familiar.
Yeah, and there's one key cog in that machine.
Can you tell me what that might be?
Kyrie Irving.
Oh,
He was on the Celtics last year. Celtics had an assortment of really, really good players, and they also had a lot of frustration with players who didn't really have a defined role. And they figured that they couldn't play to their full potential because they didn't really know where they stood on the team. And there'd be games where it'd be different people doing different things, and there was no real feel of consistency.
I think one of the biggest, you said competing for spots. Obviously, that brings to mind Kyrie Irving and Spencer Dinwiddie, but I think more than that is DeAndre Jordan and Jarrett Allen. I think Jarrett Allen had a great year mostly last year, and DeAndre Jordan, who's kind of on the downward trend, and Jarrett Allen's trending up. I know that KD and Kyrie wanted him, and he was going to sign there, and they wanted, he's a great rebounder, don't get me wrong, but I think this really hurts Jarrett Allen's growth as a player.
You think it hurts his growth as a player?
I think he's going to want to compete. I think he might get a few starting chances, but I think it was the same thing with Terry Rozier and Kyrie Irving. I think that it really hurt Terry Rozier's overall growth as well.
I'm kind of on the same page as Matt here. Maybe not saying it 100% correctly, but I feel like guys are better off in the growth of their career being able to not be the guy, but be one of the guys for their team. So I think Jared Allen would obviously much rather be a guy for his team than potentially play a backup role and like having sparing minutes. For his career-wise, it would just make his ability to grow much easier. And obviously it's a very different thing, but imagine James Harden never going to the Rockets and never being able to grow on his own and doing his own thing. Would we have the same James Harden today?
Are you implying that Jared Allen is going to merge into that like level of player if he gets the amount of playing
He could
time?
be, and let's keep in mind, what if James Harden was drafted to a team that needed him as in the starting lineup? First of all, what kind of player he could have been then?
But then there's the thought process that he's playing alongside great players.
He is, but
And he's learning
But
from
DeAndre
them.
Ayton is not. I wouldn't consider
DeAndre
a
Ayton's
great.
on the Suns. DeAndre
DeAndre
Jordan, on
DeAndre
the other
Jordan.
hand, is one of the more successful rebounding and shot blocking centers of the past decade. He's had success year in, year out, shooting the highest field goal percentage in basketball consistently, which is all parts of Jared Allen's game. And Jordan can't play 30 minutes a night anymore. He just can't. He's too old.
How
his
old is
body
he?
won't
Do you
handle-
know?
He's like 32.
32. Yeah.
And it's a developmental year for the Nets. They're not trying to win it this year. Next year is the year. When Durant is back, Allen has another year of development, playing under a guy like DeAndre Jordan who will really just teach him how to be a more productive player because Allen hasn't played with a legitimate center in practice.
So you think this is good for Jared Allen to
I
be
think it's
to be sitting?
I think it's the best thing that could have happened.
You think
to
it's
him.
good for Spencer Dinwiddie to be sitting behind Kyrie Irving?
Dinwiddie's not as much.
Now, remind me, how old is Spencer Dinwiddie? I can't remember if he's older or younger.
Dinwiddie, I believe, is the same age, maybe a little younger. I'm going to look it up just so I'm.
Because I always
make
like
sure.
he just looks like an older player to me, just his facial features. But if he's 23 or 24,
He's not 23 or 24. He's 26.
20, and Kyrie Irving's what, 25?
Kyrie is 26, I believe.
Okay, so they're the same age, and honestly,
Kyrie's 27.
yeah, I think that you brought up a great point that this is a lot like last year with terms of the point guards.
But there's the thought process that Dinwiddie played below D'Lo last year.
He did, and then
But D'Lo didn't aggressively want late minutes. And there were games when D'Lo kind of knew he wasn't all the way in, and Dinwiddie was dropping like 30 plus, and they're like, yeah, it's a Dinwiddie game. I don't think Kyrie's going to allow that.
No, because we know Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant wanted to team up. I think the part of the problem with signing Kevin Durant was you needed Kyrie Irving and DeAndre Jordan if they wanted to get him. And I honestly think they should have either kept D'Lo. Like I don't see the point of signing Kyrie Irving other than to get Kevin Durant, which is honestly what they did.
Sam, I got bad news for you, buddy. Jared Allen has played under arguably the greatest center of all time, Timothy Mozgov. So that's enough out of you, all right?
Timothy Mozgov. All right.
That's an NBA champion we're talking about. Thanks for playing.
Yeah, I guess you're right because DeAndre Jordan doesn't have any titles.
No, never has, never will.
Never will. Never will.
Does he even have a finals appearance?
No.
Because he didn't have it with the Clippers.
Lob
didn't have it with
City, far from it.
far from it, which is a shame. But that's topic for another day.
Yeah, we could trash on Lob City all
Yeah, we
day.
could.
We could do a full episode on that.
Yeah.
Moving on from that game, Matt's Rockets defeated the Raptors 118-111. Norman Powell had a pretty good game for the Raptors, 22-3-1. But the real story of the game was James Harden and Russell Westbrook.
They split roughly 20 points each, and then
22 points apiece.
five assists, 5 rebounds each, roughly, I think was what I saw.
So I have the stats in
Yep.
front of me. James Harden, 22 points,
Yep.
3 rebounds, 9 assists.
Yes.
And Russ had 22 points, 9 boards, and 4 assists.
Yeah, so I mean that's what I roughly expect out of most nights for them during the regular season, except more scoring because they're going to be playing more minutes.
Well, the key stat for me was that is the steals. They both had 3 apiece.
3 steals.
3 apiece.
Underrated. Russell Westbrook's always been a good, decent defender, but James Harden is getting a lot more aggressive on the defensive end, which is awesome.
So do we expect a better defensive year from James Harden?
I think he's upward trending. I think he had a great defensive year last year. I think he used to be awful, but then he's trending upward. So I think will be another. I think, again, playing alongside Russell Westbrook, who's averaged either first, second, or third in steals last year, James Harden's going to pick up on that and want to be more aggressive like Russell Westbrook is. And Russell Westbrook's going to want to shoot the ball more when he's around James Harden, Eric Gordon, PJ Tucker, and he's going to make more, I think. So I'm really optimistic about these guys.
Yeah, and rightfully so. I believe Harden's always had the body, he's always had the athleticism, and now I think Russ is, if anybody's going to install the drive into him, it'd be Russell Westbrook.
Yeah, the Rockets are going to be an interesting watch all year, regardless of time, place. You sit down, you watch the Rockets, I think you're going to be in for a show. Now, I'd like to get into the Raptors a little bit. Obviously, Norman Powell had a great game, but with the departure of Kawhi Leonard, obviously, do you hand the keys to Pascal Siakam in Toronto and say, take us?
I believe you kind of have to.
They have other pieces, obviously. They could have that team basketball mindset that the Celtics had without Kyrie Irving during injury. Like, you don't have that guy. I think it's every team needs, like, that guy. Like, who are you going to hand the ball to with 10 seconds left in the game? Say, go win us the game.
It's Kyle Lowry.
Is it Kyle Lowry?
Kyle Lowry's a B+ player, and, like, that's just what it is. He's older.
Has always been. I think so.
Exactly, and he's been that way for a long time, and he's just, I guess he's consistency, and I don't see a reason for them to deter from using him, and they'll probably just let Siakam kind of feel things out without Kawhi on the floor and see what kind of player he can be, and if he emerges to be that guy, then he should be the one getting the ball late.
So where do you put Marcus Smart on, like, your little ranking you just made for Kyle Lowry?
In terms of what?
In terms of you just gave Kyle Lowry a B+ player. Like, what would you say for Marcus Smart?
For Marcus Smart, Matt just mouthed B, but I'm going to say he's a B+.
Okay.
Because I think...
So now you're the Celtics.
Well, hold on. I think Marcus Smart's B+, A-.
Okay.
But that's all around, because I think Marcus Smart's A+ defensively. Offensively, he's closer to B-.
Okay. Then that's a fair argument, because I was just going to pose you the question. You're the Celtics. You have 10 seconds left. Kyrie Irving's out with an injury last year. You giving the ball to Marcus Smart, or you giving it to Jason Tatum?
I'm giving it to Jay Smoove.
Okay.
That's easy.
All right, cool.
I'll give it to Jaylen Brown before I give it to Marcus Smart.
Yeah. See, my problem with that is Marcus Smart's a great defender, A+ defender. But let's say we put him on a team as a primary scorer option. I just don't see. I'd give him a B just because he's offensively. I've seen him hit threes. I've seen him hit 5 threes in a game.
Yeah.
But I've also seen him hit no threes and go 0 points. So I'd give him a B just for that reason. I also want to mention that about Pascal Siakam. I'd offer him the rookie extension as soon as possible for the Raptors. I think they got to keep him. I mean, this is a kid who was talking about the draft later, who I picked up last year on waivers, and the person to my right here, Yanni, picked him up in the second round. So that's how much he's going to be improved. And that's how much
it says a lot. It says that Yanni's expecting a lot from him.
That's how much that people are expecting his scoring and his stuff to go. I think he's going to average 20. He started to do that towards like the last third of the season. He was averaging 20. So that's what I expected that kid for sure.
What about Fred VanVleet?
I think he'll do. He did great in the
awesome
Milwaukee
in the playoffs,
and Golden State for sure. You never know. I think he can. I think he's been another good backup to Lowry, and Lowry I think has an injury problem lately, or not lately, but just he's susceptible to that stuff. So I think he's going to be a great person to put in that role. I think he fulfills that role very well.
Yeah, and Lowry didn't play last night, so
yeah. But I think was that just injury, or was that preseason, just not wanting to play?
I believe it was preseason.
Okay,
but let me see.
While you looked at
his thumb injury from the playoffs repaired over the summer, so he's probably still.
While you're looking up, just talking about Fred VanVleet, I think you got to love the fact that his bright moments were the moments where the lights were the brightest. I think because he showed up in the playoffs, showed up when they needed him the most, and actually performed at that level, I think you're now allowed to put Fred VanVleet in the category of confidence rather than lack of confidence.
Confidence rather than lack of confidence?
In the aspect of, like, we can put him in there knowing that he's going to get the job done.
Oh, yeah.
Because obviously, like, before that, Fred VanVleet might have just been a backup that you never know when you throw in Fred VanVleet. Just, he can shoot the ball, obviously, and he's going to make plays for you, but you don't know if you're going to get that on a consistent night. Now I feel like you can put him in and have that consistency night in and night out with what he's shown. And I get it was a one-time thing, but when the lights are the brightest, that makes the moments for you. And different sport, Clayton Kershaw, one of the best pitchers of all time. That guy can't pitch in the postseason for his life, and he just blew it for the Dodgers. And looking at that, you can't put Clayton Kershaw on this Mount Rushmore if he doesn't perform when the lights are the brightest. So not having that confidence in that shows up when they actually show up, per se.
Like when they need it.
Correct.
So moving on, the Timberwolves faced the Warriors last night, and this is one of the more probably entertaining games of the preseason slide. Dubs 143, T-Wolves 123, a barn burner. Steph Curry.
Yeah, 40
points, 14 of 19 from the field, 6 of 9 from 3, 6 for 6 from free throw. Not to mention, plus 18, also had 2 steals. Guys, is he the early lock for MVP?
he's definitely in consideration. When in our draft, I keep bringing this up. When Ben picked him third, I was a little skeptical because I thought he'd be like more of a 5th, 6th kind of pick. But he's gonna be really good. He's gonna get what was that, 40 points in 25 minutes? I think Yanni said earlier.
Yeah.
Listen, the Timberwolves are a joke. If I were Cat, I would have. He signed that extension last year or the year before, and I would have gotten the hell out of there right away. That organization is a joke. If you're giving them, as soon as you know they gave Andrew Wiggins the max, that you know you can't take them seriously. You got to get the hell out of there. But I thought it was a great performance for Steph Curry. I don't know what D'Lo did. I don't even know if he even played.
I got it right here. D'Lo played 25 minutes, 16 points, 7 of 14 from the field, 2 of 8 from 3.
Okay, well, I think those are decent numbers. I think he's still finding his role. He still has to. I don't think he's used from last year. Well, he's definitely not used to compared to last year having someone take over. Like that was almost his job last year on the Nets. Like he was able to be that guy if he wanted to. Steph Curry. There's no way he's taking that from Steph Curry.
No,
that's Steph Curry's team. So I think he's trying to find his role. But that was quite the performance.
It kind of looks like Klay Thompson's stat line minus making the shots.
Yeah,
8 threes off 14 shots. So it seems like they're trying to put him into that role, which I don't know if is the right way to use him because he's effective off the dribble, and Klay's not an off the dribble guy. I think they're going to need to find that dynamic where they can let D'Lo create rather than just spotting up all day long.
Yes. Yeah. I like where you're coming from with that. I got nothing else to add. I really liked Steph's performance. I think he's ready to go this season. Not a revenge tour season because, I mean, he's got nothing to revenge other than a finals loss, but Steph is going to be ready to show up and show why you can't count the Warriors out every single night. Also, Jordan Poole last night played amazing.
19 points. Who would have thought?
Yeah.
I thought he wasn't going to get drafted, and then he goes first round.
Obviously, his moment in the tournament, then the year after, wasn't what wasn't what everyone thought just because of how much gas he had going in. Guy played impressive. I'm not gonna lie. Another rookie on the other side too. My dude, the guy who I love. I did a segment on him last year. Jarrett Culver, absolute stud. I don't care what anyone says. He is a stud.
He was next up. Now it looks like he's actually up.
Correct. He's ready to go. He's going to be, I think, what Andrew Wiggins should have been this whole entire time. And some idiots in this room took Andrew Wiggins in the draft. I wonder who that was.
Who was that?
No, I wonder who that was.
Matt, do you know who that was? Matt, can you tell me who that was?
Yeah, I do. Someone who clearly doesn't know basketball or is just way too optimistic about
it. Wasn't me.
I know it wasn't me either. So
no, it wasn't you.
So who we looking at right now? Doug?
No, Doug's not in the league.
No, Doug's not in the league. That seems like a Ben Strawbridge move for sure.
Ben's not in the league.
No, Ben's not in the league. Yeah, that's right.
Oh, it was what's his name? Frank? No.
Nico or something?
Alex.
No. It's Yanni.
Yanni Kakouris.
Yeah,
That's who it was. Yanni drafted Andrew Wiggins.
Listen, I'm giving the idiot one chance. He gets one chance.
You're giving him a chance. All right.
I'm giving him a chance. He doesn't deserve it either, but I was in just such a mental state where I was like, at this point, what do I have to lose?
What do you have to lose?
Except the whole league.
You drafted him. See, that's great and all. You drafted him 77th, which I believe is 8th, the 8th overall pick. Maybe 7th, maybe 9th, something around there. He's not worth a 7th, 8th, or 9th.
I don't think he's
pick.
rostered in most 14-team leagues, and we're an 8-team league.
It says he's on 75% of rosters.
That's stupid. He shouldn't be.
But again, this is a person who I think is a good play. Don't get me wrong. I don't think anyone should have not drafted him, but I think he's more of a 10th, 11th. Because I mean, you got Malcolm Brogdon. No, you got him just before him. But you got someone like JJ Redick was undrafted. I thought he would have been a much better pick than Andrew Wiggins. I don't even want to remember this guy's name. So that I was just amazed by that. But honestly, if we're starting to get right into this draft, I thought you had a really good starting lineup in this. I thought you got Kawhi Leonard for a great value, who was kind of hiding in the low 20s, high 30s. So I personally would have taken him over Pascal Siakam, but again, you got both at the same time, so I'm the idiot here. And Chris Paul too, I thought was an interesting pick. I think he has that's risky, but it could very well pay off for you. So I appreciate your optimism. We have another person in the league who's way too optimistic with some of his picks, being Raz, who got Kristaps Porzingis, Zion Williamson, Kevin Love, and Victor Oladipo, who are 4 questionable players. Not so much Zion Williamson, but definitely Kevin. I would not have picked Kevin Love. It's a shame. That was bold. That was a bold, and especially how early he got him too. Yanni, I'm gonna let you comment.
Yeah, listen, I understand drafts are won in rounds 4 through 7. Maybe I didn't do the best job in rounds 4 through 7. I honestly can't remember where I picked Andrew Wiggins for this draft, but I honestly like Chris Paul in his new role. I like all the I not going to lie, I love Lonzo Ball as a fantasy basketball player. Is that bad?
No, it's not bad. He adds steals and blocks and assists.
Blocks,
and rebounds.
A small, very small, triple-double % chance every night.
Yeah, legitimately.
I think he's going to be a beast. And then I just had to give Malcolm Brogdon a shot in Indy. I had to give him a shot in Indy. I want to see what he does, especially giving Oladipo the time to figure himself out when he comes back, if he's going to be at full health. Obviously, we saw the Gordon Hayward injury took a little bit of time. Brogdon could play a big role for Indy, especially with Bogdanovic gone now too.
Yeah, I like the Brogdon pick a lot. I'm as big of a Brogdon supporter as there is, but I just don't see him having the same level of production before Oladipo comes back and is at full health. I think what we're going to get is a limited minutes Brogdon because of his injury history. It's either going to be one of two things. Either going to be limited minutes Brogdon, or he's going to play too much and he's going to get hurt. So
yeah, Brogdon was a great pick for you, absolutely. And I honestly wanted to get him too, but I forget who I got instead of him. But I think I got
Brogdon?
Yeah, because I wanted Brogdon. And he's going to, by the way, he may not give you a 20 or whatever, but he's going to bring up your field goal percentage and your free throw percentage, and he's going to be able to hit the three. So, and that's what's important in fantasy. We got eight categories.
Yeah, you took Ricky Rubio.
I did take Ricky Rubio. I think he's going to be great on assists when I needed someone who I could be a little more confident. I'm not totally thrilled on him. Because I just looked. You picked Brogdon 68th, and I got Rubio 70th. I believe that was around I wanted Brogdon. But I was happy with the only thing I don't like so much about Rubio, and that has nothing to do with him personally, is that I have 2 Phoenix players. I usually don't like having two players from the same team unless they're both really good. And I obviously have Devin Booker is the person I have.
Booker's awesome.
Booker's awesome for sure. But I think if Ricky Rubio can stay healthy, he's projected to give 8 assists and give me a three-pointer with like roughly 15 points. And what's great about my team is that I don't need some of these players to score me more than 20 points. I have Damian Lillard. I have Devin Booker. I have Gallinari if he stays healthy. Randall is going to give me, I know is going to give me 26, something like a night on the Knicks if he stays healthy.
He'll give you like 26 and 10.
26 and 10, exactly. Jokic will give me averaging 21, 22. And Zach LaVine, who I thought was tremendously underrated in the draft. He was like in the 70s for projections, and then I got him 43rd. I loved Zach LaVine last year. He gave me, although a little inconsistent, gave me 26 a night. So I'm not so much concerned with scoring. I have Draymond Green for pretty much everything. Valanciunas for rebounds, and I got Ingles, who I know Yanni loves, the math teacher Joe Ingles, and he gives me some threes, and Miles Turner for blocks, Josh Richardson, and I dropped Evan Fournier.
Why?
Only because I saw the way Rajon Rondo has been playing on the Lakers.
Oh, you dropped him for Rondo?
Well, if I'm not and that's the other thing. Fournier doesn't excite me as much as because if Rondo goes down or whatever, Rondo can give me assists. And he's been scoring the ball pretty well. He's been shooting the three pretty well. And God forbid he gets injured himself, so that gives me a roster spot to add and drop every day. Whereas Fournier, I wouldn't feel comfortable dropping and adding every night. And I very well could do that with him now that he's dropped.
But I feel like, I don't know. Yeah, you have a lot of three-point shooters, so I guess that makes sense. So
Sam, you want to spit about your team a little bit? A
little
hype for yourself?
My team, I'm confident because I have Giannis. So I kind of locked up rebounds, points, assists, blocks, and steals with him. Everything except threes, really. I guess the only statistical category that I'm kind of worried about is threes. It's like De'Aaron's not the biggest three-point shooter. Luka's pretty good. The only guys that I have that are legitimate threats from three are Luka, CJ McCollum, Joe Harris.
Joe Harris I love.
And then Kyle Lowry. And like TJ Warren, not really. I think I'm going to drop him. I picked him by accident. I meant to pick Harrison Barnes with that one, but obviously didn't get him. But yeah, I don't know. I'm feeling pretty good. I've got Jason Tatum, who I drafted pretty early. He's probably my riskiest pick. He's like, if he busts, I don't think I have any chance in the league. If he plays to the level that he did really at the end of his rookie year, like in the playoffs, I feel like I'm going to win the league. So I kind of have a lot riding on him. But overall, I'm pretty confident. Don't really know what to expect from Jaren Jackson Jr. this year. I don't know what to expect from SGA. I think Shai Gilgeous-Alexander could either be really, really good or just really inconsistent. So it's hard to say right now. Mm-hmm. But what I am confident about is that when I face Yanni's team, which I believe comes... And Yanni, I'm not really getting your team name either. Hingle McCringe. Oh,
Hingle
okay.
McCringleberry, East West Bowl.
All right. Well, during the draft, it was Hingle McCringeberry.
Yes, it actually was Kringle What was it?
That was Cringe McHinge.
Yeah, I just typed it in really quickly one day without paying attention, and then I showed my buddy, and he was like, "Dude, that's wrong." I was like, "Oh, yeah, I actually wasn't paying attention. It's Hingle McCringleberry, not Kringle McCringeberry, which
Hingle
would
McCringeberry.
have been a cringe.
But that's a
in
little
itself.
more accurate for your team because your team is cringeworthy. So,
Haha.
But-
Speak now or forever hold your peace.
well, November 18th through November 24th, we'll see what the hell happens. So,
Yeah.
All right, and now we welcome back to the podcast one of our most popular guests. He is a graduate student for the University of New Hampshire and is a fan of the New York Knicks and respects the legacy of the Boston teams. Ladies and gentlemen, Doug Rodoski.
All right, thanks for having me back. We did something in the spring like this, and I really appreciate coming back to your show. So special thanks to Yanni, Matt, Ben, and Sam for having me on again. And I'm really looking forward to talking sports with you guys. And I just want to give a shout out to the students, student athletes, and faculty at UNH Durham, and all of our first responders and military. And it's a great day to be a Wildcat. Thank you.
All right, Doug. We're excited to have you back. Ready to talk some basketball, some preseason basketball, a little bit of free agency in the offseason. You're our first guest that we've ever had back on the show. So that's an honor right
Thank
there
you.
in itself.
And we got a lot of questions for you.
A lot of questions. So we'll start off, talk a little bit about maybe free agency, and then we'll lead into preseason talk.
Okay, thank you. I was eagerly awaiting with my New York Knicks, like a lot of fans, not just from New York, but across the country. We're looking forward to, like the team getting back in the playoffs and being good again. With the $71 million plus in cap space or salary money last year, I was really kind of positive trajectory of possibly getting Kevin Durant. When that didn't happen, I was very happy to see Julius Randle on board. R.J. Barrett's an excellent young talent, and as I spoke with you guys off the air previously, R.J. Barrett reminds me a lot like Scottie Pippen in that he's a forward body and skill set, but point guard capabilities. And I'm really looking forward to big things from that young man. And also the other players like Taj Gibson, great veteran experience. The Knicks brought on some great veterans. Definitely interested in you guys' teams too. And like Westbrook going to Houston is a very interesting dynamic. And, Durant, when he's healthy, playing in Brooklyn is going to be interesting. Golden State picking up D'Angelo Russell to compensate with the scoring, when there was injuries to Klay Thompson and Kevin Durant. And I think he's going to fit right in, Russell in Golden State. So a lot to look forward to. Having lived and worked in this area, too, I'm very cognizant and respectful of the Boston teams and see them when I can. I'm interested to see how the Celtics do with Kemba Walker as well.
So the thing I like about the Knicks the most, in this offseason, they got guys who play hard. And I think that's my favorite thing. Marcus Morris, I watched him as a Celtic, obviously. One of the hardest working players on the court that I see. Dennis Smith Jr. is a workhorse. Kevin Knox is primed for a breakout season if he is yet to have one yet. And I love these guys. Julius Randle was one of my favorite players. I think the Lakers letting him go originally was the start of their downfall. And I think these pieces put together are going to make, if not commotion in this league, then they will give teams a run for their money every single night because they will come out and want to win every single night.
Yeah, Doug, honestly, I wanted to know about what you think of, because the news right now is all about what Kevin Durant said. And Kevin Durant started to really get back at some fans for what he said. And I want to know what you think of what he said, because I know you're a diehard Knicks fan.
Yes, I noticed on some of the quotes on ESPN online, that Durant referenced younger players not wanting to go to the Knicks, and I really think that kind of falls into the hands of, I said I was a positive guy. I was kind of last year, I wanted Durant so bad on the Knicks that I just didn't want the ownership and the management of the Knicks to fumble it, and it looks like they did, because not only when they didn't sign him, they kind of articulated that they weren't going for him in the first place, which I couldn't understand. I know the injury is an issue. So Durant's entitled to his opinion. And again, just as an older fan who appreciates the legacy of the team, moving forward, I kind of do hope, they get close to the playoffs or in the playoffs and then can kind of establish a culture that'll pull in the younger players as free agents.
Doug, one thing I know that you won't do, but I think Knicks fans in general will do, they're going to be quick to judge RJ Barrett. And I think you have to give RJ Barrett a little bit of time. He has to get used to the bright lights of New York. He has to figure out NBA basketball, which is a whole different game. And I think he is primed for a career in this league, but it may not start right away. So can you comment on the patience that Knicks fans need?
I think myself and the other fans need to be patient, but it would be nice, like in the rankings, the power rankings preseason, they're showing them possibly as not a playoff team. I'm kind of optimistic and want to see them make the playoffs this year. They do need to be patient with somebody with a skill set like RJ Barrett. But in his interviews and when he was with his dad, when they interviewed both when they were drafted, I just see something. My impression of the young man is that he's not, one to lie down during adversity. He had a great career at Duke, kind of in the shadow of the other star. However, I would like to see him get quality minutes and be brought along and coached and not rushed too quickly, but I think he has a lot to offer. And that first preseason game against Washington at Washington, I thought he iced the game with a couple of free throws. They held the other team under 100 points. He played some point guard. And so 30 minutes plus I'd be happy with, but I agree, don't push him along too quickly.
Doug, you mentioned to me how before, right as free agency started, you were excited and optimistic about the cap space they had. I don't know if you saw Kristaps Porzingis play in his preseason game. Do you think differently now because of that and the way he played, the way he was shooting the ball?
I didn't happen to see that game. I'm happy for him that if he's recovered from his injury enough to where he has the mobility back to play like he's capable of playing, with the Dallas Mavericks. I liked Porzingis on the Knicks, and unfortunately, things seem to fall through. I didn't trust all the behind-the-scenes comments of what was going on with him last year. The coach saying he's not ready to play, and then he tweets out a video of him sprinting on the track. So clearly there was a disconnect there. I think he's a fine player, a fine young man. I want to see him do well with the other team. I am happy with the money that it freed up to get somebody like Julius Randle, who can play like all three front court positions, and definitely a 25 point, 10 rebound guy. And then the money was available to sign these other players, plus guys like Taj Gibson, veteran influence.
So overall, I know this isn't entirely accurate, but roughly they gave up Kristaps Porzingis for Marcus Morris, Taj Gibson, and Julius Randle. Are you happy with that?
I'm okay with it, just on the theory that if Porzingis is happy playing with another team and teaming up, his name slips my mind, the other European player on Dallas.
Luka Doncic.
Right, and he's an excellent talent. I see the two connecting well and playing well for them. So just from the standpoint where if the player's more comfortable playing in Dallas, and then we brought in all these other players who want to be in New York, I'm okay with it from that standpoint.
So Porzingis' first game, he had 18 points in 19 minutes. I mean, it's still preseason ball. Not everyone's going as hard as they probably should, but an impressive start for him. We'll see where it takes him and all that. What do you think was the most beneficial preseason move of all the league's free agent moves, if you had to choose one? Beneficial for that team, beneficial for that individual. We did this on the last podcast. We want to hear your take on this.
I'm a fan of Russell Westbrook. However, if you backtrack, he needs to be able to incorporate himself into a team concept. And the reason I say that is if you look back at Oklahoma City's rosters from 2011-12 until now, a ton of the players, Harden's one of them, went somewhere else and became superstars or stars. Serge Ibaka is another one. So I think once, maybe as a veteran now, Russell Westbrook will advance and be more team-minded and make his other teammates better. It's great that he can get triple-doubles. I'm fascinated with that. But maybe he's ready to take the step forward. So I kind of mentioned Russell Westbrook to preface my comments with Harden and Westbrook. Both can play the point. So I'm interested to see how that pans out, and how they integrate each other's game. That being said, I think D'Angelo Russell to Golden State gives them another potential 20-plus scorer. You could see it during the finals on Steph Curry's face when Klay Thompson got injured, and then after Durant, it's like, what's happening? We're losing our scorers. And Draymond Green stepped up with his all-around play and really carried Golden State. I was fascinated with that. So those are the two moves that I really was intrigued with, was D'Angelo Russell to Golden State, which reinforces them. And, of course, I can't overlook Kawhi Leonard to the Clippers and bringing along Paul George. So those are the three: Houston, LA Clippers, and then also Golden State. Thank you. And I think it's good for the league to have two potentially great Los Angeles teams, battling each other in the same arena. Yeah. And that's going to be fascinating to watch.
So before we get into the Kawhi Leonard stuff, because I know you wanted to talk about it a little bit, with Russell Westbrook, I know last year he thought he was going to take a back seat midseason and let Paul George do his own thing. That didn't so much happen as much as maybe he wanted, as much as I wouldn't say his ego, but his mindset wanted. And now he's back in the same boat, James Harden, saying he's going to take a back seat, saying he's going to let James Harden do what he has to do. Do you think that's possible? Do you think it's at all
Well, I just want to mention that I think he was taking a back seat when Paul George was in that stretch of MVP form, which got him third. Then I think he hurt his shoulder, Paul George, and then he started not play as well. And then Russell Westbrook turned it on more, and that's ultimately what I think lost him a first round in the playoffs.
Fair. Just knowing Russell Westbrook's mindset, do you think that will work for him?
I think he's veteran enough now to do it. My criticism, and I'm a fan of Russell Westbrook, so this isn't harsh criticism, but my criticism is, does he make the others better? He posts triple doubles, which is phenomenal, point guard. But I'm going to go old school on you. When I was a little kid, Oscar Robertson was still playing and getting ready to retire. But what Oscar Robertson did was the original triple-double point guard in the 60s. It didn't win anything until he went to Milwaukee and had Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Bobby Dandridge, plus great role players besides him. So what I see happening with Westbrook, he's veteran enough now. And I mentioned this in the last podcast. The age 30 is kind of what I look at for a professional basketball player when they still got the physical skills and they've been kicked around a little and have the knowledge now. So Westbrook, I think, is there, and I think he's going to finally get it, so to speak.
What I love about this duo in Harden and Westbrook is that they both have won MVPs. They both have hit records for either Harden hit a record for scoring, Russell Westbrook hit the most consecutive triples, and he hit the not talked about enough, the 20-20-20 after Nipsey Hussle died, which was amazing. And I think that both of them have nothing left to prove individually, and they have one thing in goal, and they want to win a championship. And I think they have a common goal. I think that's going to make them so great.
Yes, see, I am on the page of Russell Westbrook will be able to get this job done. I saw a quote from Kendrick Perkins that said, "You have two all-stars in their primes. How could this possibly not work?" So looking at it that way, these two are studs. I think they'll be able to get it done. I think they'll be ready to go.
Yeah, and you're right about that. But unfortunately, there's a lot of teams now that have two all-stars. Yes. So it's going to be a battle.
Yes, so. And that kind of leads into our next topic, Kawhi Leonard to the Clippers. You want to talk a little bit about how he got there, why he got there, what he did to get there? All that.
Did it shock you with Kawhi Leonard? Well, especially Paul George, but Kawhi Leonard too. Did that really, really surprise you when you heard?
Well, with the Kawhi Leonard, I really respect what he's doing. He's being rebellious and respectful and professional at the same time. And by that, I mean he's signing these shorter contracts, so he's not locked into a particular team, and he's testing the water with that team, and then he's going to where he wants to play. So if I'm not mistaken, with Toronto, it was like a 1 or a 2 year contract, a very short one.
1 year.
Yep, and that gives the player negotiating strength and empowers the player. I'll go old school again. Bill Bradley, who won Knicks titles in 70 and 73, nobody knew it at the time. He would quietly go up to management and renegotiate a 1 year contract every year and get what he wanted and then just keep it on the lowdown. And by that, he had maximum negotiating power and he wasn't locked in. So I think with Kawhi Leonard, I respect what he's doing. What I see in other sports sometimes with the players, like the wide receivers with a lot of talent, Odell Beckham Jr. is one, openly arguing with the coaches on the sideline. I really dislike that. Kawhi Leonard is an example of a modern athlete taking agency of his own career with the shorter contracts and being respectful and professional at the same time. So it didn't surprise me. I kind of suspected he'd go somewhere else and continue to build his own legacy. I was surprised to see Oklahoma City allow Paul George to leave. Less the player leaving, more like I thought they were going to hang on to him. But it's definitely an interesting dynamic now that you got two strong teams in LA.
Talking about the football aspect of it all, it's crazy to see these football players sitting out a whole entire season just to try and get the contract or the team that they want. I think you have to go out there, you have to do your job, you have to be fair, just
be a part of the team. Antonio Brown right now with his whole thing is absolutely absurd. And it just makes Kawhi Leonard's view on this aspect much stronger, and it makes it more important to sports in general.
Wait a second, because wasn't this the same person, Kawhi Leonard, who sat out most of 2 years ago? And
Correct.
I know it was an injury,
yes,
but
yes.
I think there was a little bit of hostility and say, I don't want to play for the Spurs. Trade
Maybe
me.
a little bit of hostility. However, the way they handled his injury is just
was
absurd.
bad. Yeah,
yes,
it was.
Yes, and that just depletes a relationship. Not speaking on the fact that someone just doesn't want to play for a team anymore.
And thanks. I appreciate you bringing that up because I thought of that while we were talking. Kawhi Leonard kind of did the same thing, by sitting out. But I think it was similar to like back in the day when Bill Walton had his injury with Portland. He wasn't on all fours with the medical staff and how they diagnosed things and had him go back out there too early. So I think in Kawhi Leonard's case, I would have liked to see him continue with San Antonio and be the face of the franchise with Duncan gone. However, he did what he felt was right. He didn't sit out too long. He played part of that season, I believe, and sat out the rest. And so he's taken agency and control of his own career, and I respect that.
This reminds me that, I don't know if you remember, that Marcus Morris actually signed with the Spurs before, agreed to the Spurs before he actually went and agreed with the Knicks because he changed. Is there a problem with the Spurs right now where players just don't seem to... Maybe Marcus Morris, I think, maybe wanted to get more money. That's probably why he went to the Knicks. But back in the day, people wanted to play for Greg Popovich in the Spurs. Like, what's going on there? What do you think?
I'm a huge Popovich fan. I'm fascinated with how he had the team at a championship level for like 20 years. But I think what happens is, and it has a lot to do with the modern player, this happened with the Lakers back in the 80s when Pat Riley drove that team to multiple championships. But at a certain point, the players start to tune out, the alpha personality coach. And that might have been the case with San Antonio. I don't know for sure. I'm a big Popovich fan. He's got the general management keys as well as coaching, I believe. And that's great to have that much control. I think maybe when you're there for a certain amount of time, the players tune you out. And that might be what happened with Morris.
Will the Spurs make the playoffs this year, you think? Yanni, what do you think along with that?
The West is such a toss-up. It is so difficult to predict it as of right now. They're obviously a bubble team, in my opinion. I think they're flexing on anywhere between 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
I think they're competing with the Mavericks, the Pelicans, and the Kings as well for that low seed playoff kind of thing.
Yes, it's going to be very interesting to see how the bottom of the West shapes up.
I would never rule out a Popovich coach team because he builds his strategies around the personnel that he has. Like 1 year it's offense, 1 year it's defense. So I definitely wouldn't rule San Antonio out, but going off like you guys mentioned, in that Southwest division, you got Houston, you got the Pelicans with Zion Williamson.
The new look Pelicans, all young guys.
Exactly. Porzingis, Doncic in Dallas. Memphis, Jaren Jackson, Morant. I think that's a very tough conference right now, as well as division. So, but I would never rule out a Spurs coached by Popovich. He might be able to get them in there.
So another thing that I want to bring up, going off of free agency, getting the older perspective of it. Obviously, there's a more balanced league this year. Guys are going, maybe partnering up with someone, but there's not the super team. My question to you is when, where, and who first started the super team term?
While we were talking here at this round table, I was thinking back to, I was actually on a deployment with the Army at the time overseas, 2003, when the Lakers stocked up with Karl Malone and Gary Payton to reinforce Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant. There was all kind of chatter over the summer, they're going to win 80 games. And it didn't happen, and they ended up faltering in the playoffs or in the finals, I believe, to Detroit that year. A very strong-oriented team. So super team, that was one example of a super team. I think back to the 1983 Philadelphia 76ers, who had a huge rivalry with the Boston Celtics when they brought on Moses Malone to go along Julius Erving and Andrew Toney. So that was kind of a super team. And even though it wasn't built like through free agency necessarily, but by very wise moves by our back, that Celtics team of 86 when you had McHale, Bird, Parrish, Ainge, Dennis Johnson, and Bill Walton coming off the bench. Maybe not the classic super team as far as going into the market and signing free agents, but that was a super team.
See, it's funny because you have that different perspective. Obviously, I've grown up seeing the first super team for me was LeBron and the decision to the Heat. So that was the first super team that I was able to witness and that I can recollect.
How about the '08 Celtics?
See, the '08 Celtics,
So, I mean,
maybe I'm a little biased for not being a super team because
I thought, Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, Ray Allen, that seems like a super team to me.
I think so too. Big three, but I don't want to address them as a super team because I hate LeBron so much that I can just peg him as a super team guy.
Okay, yeah.
So with that, we've seen those few teams, but I've always wondered where it first started because I got a lot of opinions saying Michael Jordan wasn't what he was because he first started the super teams. And so I get in a lot of Jordan James debates because I bring up the super team aspect of the Heat rings and they bring up the potentially super team aspect of those Bulls teams. So thoughts on those teams potentially being a super team at that era?
I'll make this quick. I know you guys have a lot to add, but when I was a little kid, I can remember Bill Russell going from the Sixers to the Lakers a little before I started watching. But when the Lakers acquired Wilt Chamberlain from Philly to the Lakers, he joined Elgin Baylor and Jerry West. So that was a big three. So that was kind of the concept of, Jerry Buss or whoever the owner was at the time for the Lakers, paying all that money and bringing on, big players. The Miami teams that you referenced, I remember that very clearly because I was hoping the Knicks would get LeBron, and they let some fine players get away to clear cap space to get LeBron James. So I kind of wanted LeBron to go to the Knicks, and I was kind of sore when he went to the Heat. The Heat were very strong with LeBron and Ray Allen and D. Wade, and they had a fine young coach. So that was a modern super team. So the actual genesis of it, like I said, with the Lakers in the 60s and the 70s, the Knicks, strong team-oriented teams, but not necessarily a super team with the flashy players and the high scorers. The San Antonio Spurs, very strong. You guys referenced the Celtics. It was kind of like the second coming of the big three with Garnett, Ray Allen, and Paul Pierce.
And maybe even Rondo in there.
And Rondo, too, as a young player, really came on strong for them. So the genesis of the super team, to answer your question, was probably in the 60s and 70s, and there's been revisions over the years. So it's debatable whether it's the way to go or whether you want one or two superstars and then build role players around them. So this season's going to be very interesting from that standpoint.
All right, one last question for me, and I think Yanni was going to ask you something else, and then we'll wrap it up. You mentioned you see my Jokic jersey. You said you wanted to give a little bit of what you like and what you don't like about him. Please do.
Absolutely. He's aggressive, I think, without being a dirty player. He's massive, and he can move. And I want to see, when you got guys that big, throwing themselves around, you just want them to stay healthy, and he did have the injury last year. But what he reminds me of, when I look at the box score alone, is the numbers that Bill Walton and Dan Issel with the Nuggets, Bill Walton with Portland used to put up back in the day, was you got a big man with his passing skills who's the hub of the offense, who can protect the rim on defense. I hope nothing for the best, but for Jokic, I think he's great for the league. When you have a center that can pass and can see the floor in the half court like that, it really helps out the team. So I like Jokic a lot.
All right, we're probably going to have you on the pod again. I would love you on the pod again, but we can't have you on the pod without getting a preseason Eastern Conference Finals champion, Western Conference Finals champion, and NBA champion of the 2019-2020 season. I'll give you mine really quickly. The East, obviously, biased. It's going to be tough. You got the Bucks. You got the Sixers. You got potentially the Celtics in there. You have the Pacers. You have all these teams that there's no front runner, in my opinion. Every team, depending on how they play on a certain night, could take it. I'm going to go with the Celtics in the East. I love the Celtics. Can't not go with the Celtics. My Western Conference team might surprise you a bit, surprised everybody a bit on the last episode. The Utah Jazz are going to make it to the NBA Finals. I love their roster. Head to toe, those are my guys in the West. And I don't know who I could take out of those two. Obviously, I'm going to take the Celtics, but I think it could be a huge toss-up.
I'll give you mine real quick, Doug, while you're looking at it. I'm thinking out of the East, Philly. I like their big men. I think they have a little bit of a shooting problem, but I trust Josh Richardson. And I saw Ben Simmons make it through. I think most of us did, and that was pretty awesome. So he may make some.
Arguably the largest news of the
largest
NBA
news
preseason
of the week, yes, for sure. And then in the West, I'm definitely riding or dying with my Rockets. for sure. I think I'm so optimistic about that, and I could look like a fool by the end of the season, or I could look like the smartest man in the room. So we'll have to see about that. And for the championship, I'm going with the Rockets.
Remember, you're talking to someone who's taken the Utah Jazz, so this is all up in the air.
I really like you guys' picks. I'm going to go old school. I think it's going to be a Boston-Los Angeles finals. And the reason I say that, Kemba Walker brings that point guard mentality that, like street baller who makes his other teammates better as well in the team set. So I like Walker kind of refocusing. Things were a little dysfunctional with Kyrie Irving last year. I think everybody's going to take a step forward, and the coach is going to be more comfortable with this group. So I take the Celtics in the East, and I'm actually going to go against some of the predictions with the Clippers. I think Los Angeles Lakers are going to surprise a lot of people. And I noticed I like Frank Vogel as a coach. And I think LeBron has a lot left in the tank, and Anthony Davis is as big as a dinosaur, and he can run like a deer. He's just multi-skilled. And they actually experimented with LeBron at point guard, a la Magic Johnson. So, yeah, I kind of reminisce the old teams, and I'm looking at strong teams in both conferences. Western Conference, very strong with Houston, and Portland's still doing good. I like your Utah pick because they're excellent.
Thank you.
The Nuggets and
Clippers,
Golden State, and the Clippers too. Yeah. But I'm going to go with the Lakers in the West and the Celtics in the East. If you got to have me pick one over the other, I'd go with the Lakers.
All right. Before we sign off, my X factor for the Lakers this year, not LeBron James, not Anthony Davis, Avery Bradley. Mm-hmm. I really am interested to see what Avery Bradley does this year for the Lakers. Mm-hmm. And I think he is going to be the difference from them winning games versus losing games. But that is a story we will take when the time comes. Thank you so much, Doug. We appreciate you always coming on. You're a great guest, speak great knowledge that some of us have not either seen or just lack in general. So you fill what we don't have. So we appreciate it. Thank you so much.
And thanks for having me, you guys. I really enjoyed it, same as the last one. And I hope, thanks for being patient with my lapses into the past. That's what happens when you're an older sports fan. But I'm looking forward to this year in basketball. And I love going to school here. It's a great day to be a Wildcat.
Now, I want to get you guys' opinion on who you think is the best team. And I think it would be safe to say all of us agree that individually, like I agree my team's the best, you would agree your team's the best, and Sam would agree his team's the best. But leaving those three teams out of it.
I don't think Yanni thinks his team's the best.
Oh, I do.
I think he does. So I want to know, I want you to rank your three teams, your best teams, in your opinion, without including yourself, your own team.
Without including myself.
I'm going to rank the best three teams, in my opinion, right now, not including myself. I like Alvin's team, I think, a lot. I think Alvin's team is really good. I give Sam the second place, and I'm starting to I can't really decide between Chris and Ben, but I don't know. Chris has a lot of shot blockers and a lot good, but he also has a lot of people from the same team as well. So
can we just talk about that? I thought I was the biggest Utah Jazz guy. Chris has 3 players from the Utah Jazz on a fantasy basketball team. How many beverages did he have before this draft?
I think he was smoking like 5 cigs before that or something, because I didn't get that. But again, I mean, I'm optimistic about Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert too. But then I get you want the best possible player you can get at the time of you draft. But at the same time, if Utah only plays 2 games that week, he's not in great shape, especially when those Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell are so heavily relied upon on his team. Yeah, I'd probably pick. I like Ben's only because he has Steph Curry, Tobias Harris, Andre Drummond, Spencer Dinwiddie, and when Paul George gets back, he'll be good. And Ben, I noticed, picked up his name? Tyler Herro from waivers. The way he's been playing, the way that man.
Who'd he drop?
Let me check. But that's just my opinion. Sam, what do you think about your 3 favorite teams?
Matt, I like your team a lot. I think you have depth, and you also don't have any duty players, which I think is the most important thing. The only players that have potential to be major busts for you are Danilo Gallinari out of injury.
Yep.
And that's really it.
Yeah, and just before you say anything else, ironically, he dropped Serge Ibaka for Tyler Herro.
That's not surprising.
But I thought Serge Ibaka, that's a good pickup for someone, I think.
I guess. But it's an 18 league, so it's kind of nitpicky. But I like the 2 picks I like the most for you, Matt, were Josh Richardson.
Late round.
second to last pick, 91st overall. And then with the 102nd overall pick, you got Miles Turner, who's a potential
That was
to be
my
a
last
top,
pick. Yeah, I know.
a top 3 center in basketball.
I know.
this year.
I noticed I didn't have a lot of good shot blockers. I'm like, oh, Miles Turner can do it for sure.
He's the best shot blocker.
He is the best shot blocker. Last year he
Him and
was.
Gobert, yeah.
Yes, him and Gobert, absolutely.
Other team that I kind of like, I like Ben's team also.
Yep.
I think that him getting Andre Drummond is huge because that's like the biggest rebounder in the game. RJ Barrett is the one pick that I think will either.
Yeah, it's a question. Like you said, with my team, there's not a lot of questions. Like
exactly.
With
RJ's a big
not
question.
A lot of,
but Doug, he's very optimistic about RJ Barrett. I was talking to him the other day, and he thinks that Barrett can be a borderline all-star this year.
Yeah, he said he compared him to Scottie Pippen the way he can. He's the size of a forward, but he can also handle the ball like a guard.
Yeah, so his team will be impressive. I don't want to say I like Chris's team, so I'm not going to do that. But Duffy's team sucks.
Yeah, Duffy's team is bad.
Roz's team, I mean, look,
questionable.
He's got LeBron, Russ. He picked Zion before a lot of really good players. I thought he jumped too early on him. But Blake Griffin I like. Kemba was a great pick. I think Miles Bridges could be really good for him. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I feel like it's kind of a top-heavy team with my team, Matt's team, Ben's
I think
team.
you'd give Alvin credit, too. I think Alvin's team is really good.
I disagree.
No, I
disagree. I don't like the fact that Alvin picked Eric Bledsoe as early as he did.
Yeah.
Eric Bledsoe's not a good...
And he's out for 3 weeks.
Exactly.
Too.
DeAndre Hunter, he could be really good. I get it, but that's a risk. Colin Sexton, I mean...
Yeah,
come on.
He's not as bad as you think.
He's not bad. I know
he's going to be the focus of that team.
He turned it... But is he? They drafted Darius Garland.
Well, Darius
Garland plays the same position as Colin Sexton.
He does, absolutely.
That's got to say something. Yeah. And then, I don't know.
Yeah, right, Yanni.
He's also got a ton of stock in the Hawks with John Collins, Trae Young, and DeAndre Hunter.
All right, real quick before we wrap it up, I think you guys tied in everything about the league. I'm going to let you guys put your heads on your pillows and tuck yourselves into bed. Maybe a warm glass of milk. Whatever sets you to sleep, I need you to sleep on Hingle McCringleberry and his ability to outperform the competition this year. Stay sleeping for as long as possible.
I mean, well said.
Was that well said?
I don't know. I wasn't what I was expecting.
I'm looking forward to chirping Yanni's team all throughout the season.
Yeah, and we got a $20 buy-in each. Winner, we decided gets 100. Third place gets 20, and then fourth place gets 40. Sorry, not fourth place. Second place gets 40.
Oh, okay.
Second place gets 40. Third place gets 10.
Their money back.
And then then first gets $100. So
okay.
It'll be worth it for the winner.
Ben, you're standing here. Do you have anything to say? Or should I just wrap it up? Ben's got nothing. So that about does it for this week's episode of the Teenage HoopCats podcast on the Teenage Podcast Network. Big shout out to my co-hosts, Yanni Kakouris and Matt Erb. Guys, always a pleasure working with you.
It was awesome. Thank you again to Doug.
Shout out us.
So I'm looking forward to taking you guys' money at the end of the season.
Oh, boy.
Big thank you to our guest, Doug Rodoski. We'll probably hear from him on the pod later in the year.
Yeah, he'll be back.
Thank you to our producer, Benjamin Strawbridge, to Miguel Oyler for the theme music, and WUNH 91.3 FM for letting us use their studio. Good night.
Good night.
Hibernation season's upon us. Good night, everyone.